As the Mesozoic Era's final chapter began, around 145 million years ago, our planet Earth was entering a dynamic and transformative phase known as the Cretaceous period. This was a time marked by sweeping environmental changes, new evolutionary pathways, and ecosystems that set the stage for some of the most magnificent creatures the world has ever known, including the diverse dinosaurs who would dominate terrestrial landscapes for millions of years. To understand the story of dinosaur survival and evolution during the Cretaceous, we must first immerse ourselves in the environmental conditions that shaped their existence at the dawn of this era. Picture Earth during the dawn of the Cretaceous, a world still recovering and evolving from the powerful forces that shaped the earlier Jurassic period. The planet's continents, although beginning to drift apart, were still clustered more closely together than they are today. Vast inland seas began to form, oceans covered large swaths of the land, and mountain ranges started to rise, sculpted by the restless movements of tectonic plates. This geological dynamism would influence nearly every aspect of life, from climate and available habitats to the distribution and diversity of species. One fundamental aspect of the early Cretaceous was its climate. Although the Jurassic period had been warm and moist, the Cretaceous started with a general trend toward even warmer temperatures worldwide, especially compared to today's climate. There were no polar ice caps yet, and tropical and subtropical climates extended far beyond the equator, reaching into what are today temperate regions. This created lush, verdant environments rich in plant life, supporting diverse herbivores and the predators that hunted them. However, the global warming of the early Cretaceous was not uniform. Researchers looking at sedimentary records and ancient soils have found that climate variability was already at play. Monsoonal patterns and seasonal changes became more pronounced in some regions due to shifting ocean currents and atmospheric circulation. This variability shaped the availability of water and food, imposing selective pressures on species that encouraged adaptation and innovation. Forests of towering conifers, cycads, and ginkgos dominated the landscapes, forming dense canopies where sunlight filtered in dappled patterns down to the underbrush. These ancient forests provided homes and feeding grounds for a variety of animals, from giant sauropods nibbling on the tallest branches to smaller ornithischians browsing closer to the ground. Mosses and ferns carpeted the forest floors, and river valleys ran with fresh, clean water, nourishing the soils and stabilizing habitats. In coastal regions, extensive shallow seas began to spread inland, creating new marine environments filled with life. These epicontinental seas were teeming with fish, ammonites, and the early ancestors of modern marine reptiles. These waters also created humid conditions for nearby terrestrial environments and enabled the migration and diversification of various species along the margins of land and sea. The interactions between marine and terrestrial ecosystems grew more complex during this time. On the geological front, volcanic activity remained a significant factor influencing the environment during the early Cretaceous. Volcanism contributed not only to the formation of new landforms, but also to atmospheric changes, injecting gases and particulate matter into the air that could have short-term cooling effects or longer-term contributions to greenhouse warming. These processes played a role in the ecological rhythms, sometimes disrupting local ecosystems, and at other times encouraging diversification by creating new ecological niches. Another characteristic of early Cretaceous Earth was the high sea levels. These elevated seas led to the flooding of large continental areas, carving out isolated habitats and encouraging speciation. Isolated landmasses became natural laboratories for evolutionary experimentation, where certain groups of dinosaurs and plants could evolve independently in response to localized environmental pressures. This geographic isolation paved the way for the remarkable diversity of life forms that we associate with the Cretaceous period. Amidst these shifting and diverse environments, early mammals also began to quietly thrive, though small in size and number compared to the dominant dinosaurs. Their presence hinted at the intricate food webs and competitive dynamics that would only intensify as the era progressed. The interactions between early mammals, insects, reptiles, and dinosaurs began weaving a complex tapestry of ecological relationships. It is important also to consider the atmospheric conditions of this setting. The early Cretaceous atmosphere had higher levels of carbon dioxide compared to pre-industrial levels today, which, coupled with the warm climate, helped fuel the vibrant growth of plant life and maintained lush, green landscapes. Oxygen levels were somewhat variable, but generally sufficient to support large terrestrial vertebrates. This atmospheric chemistry created a world where gigantic sauropods could roam, massive trees could tower over the land, and the ecosystems could flourish in relative stability. From the frozen high latitudes to the equatorial tropics, the variety of environments meant that dinosaurs and other animals had to adapt to a wide range of habitats. Seasonal changes may have introduced periods of scarcity or abundance, challenging species to develop new survival strategies, whether through migration, behavioral adaptability, or physiological innovations. Thus, at the dawn of the Cretaceous, Earth was a planet alive with geological energy and biological vitality. Its environments were diverse, dynamic, and full of opportunity for life to evolve in spectacular ways. Understanding these conditions sets the stage for exploring how the continents continued to drift, how climate variability shaped ecosystems, and how the fascinating flora and fauna, especially dinosaurs, adapted and flourished in the face of change. We will next turn our focus to the ever-shifting geography of the Cretaceous and how the movement of continents forever altered the evolutionary pathways of Earth's inhabitants. As we move forward from the vibrant beginnings of the Cretaceous environment, our next exploration centers on one of the most powerful forces shaping life on Earth during this period: continental drift. This slow but relentless movement of Earth's landmasses profoundly influenced the geography, climate, and biodiversity of the Cretaceous world, setting the stage for evolutionary innovation and ecological complexity. To understand continental drift during the Cretaceous, it's essential to revisit the fundamental geological processes underpinning plate tectonics. Earth's outer shell, known as the lithosphere, is segmented into massive tectonic plates that float atop the more ductile asthenosphere beneath. These plates, carrying continents and ocean basins alike, are in constant motion, propelled by forces such as mantle convection, slab pull, and ridge push. The Cretaceous period, spanning from approximately 145 to 66 million years ago, was a time when the arrangement of these plates was markedly different from today, and their movements were particularly consequential. At the dawn of the Cretaceous, the supercontinent Pangaea, which had dominated much of the late Paleozoic and early Mesozoic eras, had already begun its fragmentation. This breakup had accelerated during the Jurassic, and by the early Cretaceous, the landmass was splitting into two primary large continents: Laurasia to the north, encompassing what would become North America, Europe, and parts of Asia, and Gondwana to the south, including South America, Africa, Antarctica, Australia, and India. During the Cretaceous, these great continental fragments continued their slow drift apart, shaped by divergent plate boundaries where new oceanic crust was formed. This produced the widening of the Atlantic Ocean and the birth of new ocean basins and seaways that carved into continents themselves. These interior seaways, such as the Western Interior Seaway in North America, submerged large inland expanses, dividing land masses and altering migration routes and habitat connectivity. In particular, the opening of the South Atlantic Ocean began significantly during this period as South America and Africa separated, eventually forming the Atlantic Ocean as we know it today. This separation was gradual but steady, with massive volcanic activity at mid-ocean ridges contributing to new crust formation. The subduction of oceanic plates beneath continental plates also prompted the uplift of mountain ranges, like the early stages of the Andes in South America. Simultaneously, the Indian subcontinent, once part of Gondwana, began to drift northward, setting it on a collision course with Asia that would not culminate until much later, around 50 million years ago. Yet, this journey was crucial as it influenced oceanic circulation and regional climates. The drifting of continents impacted ocean currents as well. As the continents rearranged, seaways opened and closed, changing the pathways by which warm and cold currents flowed across the globe. These changes affected climate patterns and environmental conditions ranging from deep ocean ecosystems to terrestrial weather. Another key geographic transformation was the fragmentation of land into smaller islands and archipelagos in various regions, resulting from rising sea levels combined with tectonic movements. These isolated islands served as unique ecological arenas where species could evolve separately, sometimes leading to distinctive dinosaur faunas adapted to their specific island habitats. A fascinating topic we will encounter further along. The shifting geography also influenced flora. With the division of land masses came isolation of plant populations, encouraging speciation and the development of regionally distinct plant communities. Marine life was similarly affected, with new shallow seas and coastlines creating habitats supporting diverse groups such as ammonites, marine reptiles, and early fish. Moreover, the distribution of fossils from different continents today reflects the history of their separation. Matching fossilized plants and animals found on distant continents, such as similar dinosaur genera in South America and Africa, serve as clues to their former connections before drift separated their habitats. This fossil record helps paleontologists reconstruct the changing arrangement of continents and understand how geography influenced evolution. In some regions, the effects of continental drift were dramatic and immediate. For example, as the North American and Eurasian plates diverged along the mid-Atlantic rift, the separation fostered new coastlines and marine environments, altering local climates and ecosystems. In Asia, tectonic collision zones led to mountain building, which affected river systems and habitats, influencing the distribution and diversity of dinosaurs and other organisms. This continuous reconfiguration of the Earth's surface during the Cretaceous had profound ecological consequences. It shaped patterns of biodiversity by isolating populations, creating barriers to gene flow, or connecting previously separated groups. As habitats were created, lost, or transformed, species had to respond through migration, adaptation, or extinction, weaving a complex web of evolutionary pressures. Understanding this frame of continental drift provides a foundation for appreciating the ecological and evolutionary narratives we will explore in later sections. How climate variability interfaced with geography, how plants transformed ecosystems, and how dinosaurs themselves evolved within the constraints and opportunities that shifting land and sea presented. In summary, the Cretaceous was a time of dramatic geographical reshaping driven by the relentless but purposeful drift of continents. These movements redefined Earth's face and laid the groundwork for the remarkable biodiversity and ecological complexity that characterized the period. As continents drifted apart and new seas emerged, the stage was set for life to adapt and flourish in novel environments, contributing to the rich tapestry of the Mesozoic world. With this understanding of continental dynamics, Let us now transition to examining how these vast geographic shifts intertwined with climate changes, global warmth, fluctuating sea levels, and the resulting ecological zones that further sculpted the Cretaceous world. Continuing from the profound geographical reshaping during the Cretaceous, we now focus on the vital and dynamic element of climate variability that defined this era. Climate is the tapestry upon which the natural world is woven, influencing every facet of life, from the smallest plants to the largest dinosaurs. Throughout the Cretaceous, Earth's atmosphere and ocean systems orchestrated patterns of global warmth, shifting sea levels, and the emergence of diverse ecological zones, presenting both challenges and opportunities for evolving organisms. The Cretaceous is often characterized as a greenhouse world, a term that describes periods of Earth's history when global temperatures were significantly warmer than today, and polar ice was largely absent. During this time, the planet experienced some of the warmest climates of the entire Mesozoic Era, with average global temperatures possibly 6 to 14 degrees Celsius higher than modern averages. This warmth had far-reaching consequences. Several factors contributed to this thermal elevation. High atmospheric concentrations of carbon dioxide, CO2, estimated in some reconstructions to be several times pre-industrial levels, acted as powerful greenhouse gases, trapping heat in the lower atmosphere. Volcanic activity, which was ongoing during the Cretaceous, released large amounts of CO2 alongside other gases, maintaining these elevated greenhouse gas levels. Moreover, the arrangement of continents and ocean currents, shaped by the earlier continental drift, influenced heat distribution across the globe. This warmer world saw the disappearance of extensive polar ice caps, meaning the poles were far less frigid than their modern counterparts. Fossil evidence from places that today lie within Arctic and Antarctic circles tells us that palm trees, crocodilian ancestors, and diversity-rich forests thrived well into these high latitudes, suggesting subtropical or even tropical climates in regions that are now covered by ice and snow year-round. But climate variability in the Cretaceous was not simply a matter of persistent warmth. It was a dynamic system marked by fluctuations. Geological records reveal episodes of both rapid warming and cooling, sometimes linked to volcanic events or changes in oceanic circulation. These shifts caused periodic changes to precipitation patterns, storm frequencies, and local temperature gradients. Regional climates could oscillate between wetter and drier phases, influencing the availability of fresh water and plant growth cycles. One fascinating manifestation of these changes was the frequent rises and falls in global sea levels, driven by a combination of factors. The absence of polar ice sheets meant that thermal expansion of seawater had a significant effect on sea levels. Additionally, tectonic processes such as seafloor spreading at mid-ocean ridges created elevated ocean basins that displaced water onto the continents. These combined causes led to some of the highest sea levels in Earth's history during the mid-Cretaceous. This rise in sea level led to epicontinental seas, the vast, shallow inland seas we mentioned earlier, which inundated continental interiors. The western interior seaway of North America is an iconic example. A broad, warm sea extending from the Gulf of Mexico to the Arctic Ocean, dividing the continent into two land masses and creating marine habitats teeming with fish, marine reptiles, and numerous invertebrates. Similar shallow seas appeared in other parts of the world, such as the Tethys Ocean's extensions into Eurasia and northern Africa. These marine incursions had a domino effect on surrounding terrestrial ecosystems. Flooded lowlands became isolated coastal environments where unique ecosystems developed. The availability of large, shallow marine shelves provided rich feeding grounds for marine reptiles and birds, while on the adjacent land, the humid conditions favored lush vegetation growth, impacting herbivorous dinosaurs. The combination of warm temperatures and altered landscapes helped create a mosaic of ecological zones. From equatorial tropical rainforests dense with ferns, cycads, and early flowering plants, angiosperms, to seasonal woodland environments richer in conifers and ginkgos, the diversity of habitats increased tremendously. In higher latitudes, evidence shows a progression from forests to more open habitats, indicating that even in the Cretaceous warmth, biodiversity and vegetation types varied substantially with latitude and local topography. This variety of ecological zones also influenced the evolution and geographical distribution of dinosaurs and other organisms. Some species adapted to humid, densely vegetated habitats, while others became specialized for drier or more open environments. For instance, ornithopods and ceratopsians thrived in the florally rich plains near seaways, while large sauropods inhabited vast forested regions with abundant foliage. Predators adapted their hunting strategies to these diverse settings, and smaller animals found niches amid this complex tapestry. The interplay between sea level fluctuations and climate variability also affected sedimentation patterns and nutrient cycles. Rising seas could enhance coastal wetlands and estuaries, which functioned as crucial nurseries for many species. The depositional environments created by these processes preserved fossils that today provide extraordinary insight into the life and conditions of the period. Moreover, these changing conditions brought about challenges. Rapid sea level changes could destroy habitats or force species to migrate. Fluctuating climates could cause droughts or floods, testing the resilience and adaptability of ecosystems. These stresses spurred evolutionary processes, favoring flexible behaviors or morphological adaptations conducive to survival under variable environmental pressures. Understanding this climate variability gives us perspective on the resilience exhibited by the Cretaceous biota. The dinosaurs, plants, and marine creatures that inhabited the Earth during this time did so in a world far warmer and more dynamic than our own, yet one intimately balanced by geological and atmospheric processes. In summary, the Cretaceous climate was a complex, warming world marked by high CO2 levels, elevated sea levels, and diverse ecological zones spanning from equatorial rainforests to polar woodlands. Sea level changes inundated continental interiors, creating unique ecosystems bridging marine and terrestrial life. These intertwined forces shaped evolutionary pathways and the biogeography of the time. As we continue our journey through the Cretaceous, our next chapter will explore one of the most transformative botanical revolutions of the era, the rise of flowering plants. Their emergence not only changed Earth's landscapes, but also revolutionized food webs and ecological relationships, forever altering the course of life during the Cretaceous and beyond. As we turn our attention from the climatic rhythms and shifting geographies of the early Cretaceous, we arrive at one of the most transformative botanical revolutions in Earth's history, that of the rise of flowering plants, or angiosperms. This evolutionary breakthrough fundamentally changed terrestrial ecosystems, reshaped food webs, and influenced the very survival strategies of the fauna that lived amidst these greenery-rich landscapes, including the dinosaurs. Before flowering plants made their debut, Earth's vegetation was dominated by gymnosperms, plants like conifers, cycads, ginkgos, and ferns, which had long flourished since the late Paleozoic and Mesozoic eras. These plants reproduced primarily through spores or exposed seeds, and were often adapted to relatively stable, less diverse environments. Their foliage formed the towering forests and dense undergrowth that sustained the earliest dinosaur species, creating a familiar yet limited vegetative environment. The arrival of angiosperms during the early Cretaceous was subtle at first. small flowering plants in undergrowth habitats, somewhat overshadowed by the grandeur of towering gymnosperm forests. However, their evolutionary innovations allowed them to spread rapidly and dramatically over the next tens of millions of years. What made this rise so remarkable were the novel features of flowering plants that provided unprecedented reproductive efficiency and ecological flexibility. Key among these features was the flower itself, a specialized reproductive structure designed to enhance pollination efficiency. Unlike gymnosperms, which primarily rely on wind for the dispersal of pollen, flowering plants developed intricate relationships with pollinators, including insects, that carried pollen directly from flower to flower. This mutualistic relationship boosted the genetic diversity and reproductive success of angiosperms, allowing them to colonize new environments rapidly. Additionally, angiosperms produce enclosed seeds within fruits, which provide protection and aid in seed dispersal. Animals, from insects to small vertebrates, became important agents in this dispersal process by eating fruits and depositing seeds elsewhere, thus facilitating the colonization of diverse habitats. This strategy also enhanced genetic mixing and species spread, contributing to the incredible diversity of flowering plants. As flowering plants radiated and diversified, they began to transform landscapes previously dominated by older plant groups. Early Cretaceous fossil records indicate that angiosperms started appearing in a range of environments, from wetlands to drier uplands. Estimates suggest that by the mid to late Cretaceous, flowering plants had become a dominant component of many habitats, particularly in lowland areas influenced by the high sea levels of the period. This botanical revolution rippled through ecosystems with wide-reaching consequences. More diverse and abundant plants provided new food sources for herbivores, stimulating evolutionary changes among them. For instance, changes in dentition and jaw mechanics among ornithischian dinosaurs might reflect adaptations to the tougher or differently textured foliage of angiosperms compared to gymnosperms. Likewise, mammalian lineages of the period likely exploited emerging angiosperm-based resources, setting the groundwork for their later ecologic expansion. Furthermore, the rise of flowering plants had profound effects on the insect world. Pollinating insects such as bees, butterflies, and beetles underwent parallel evolutionary radiations in response to the new ecological niches created by angiosperms. This coevolution between plants and pollinators not only enhanced floral diversity, but also intensified ecological complexity. Beyond these direct effects, flowering plants contributed importantly to soil formation and nutrient cycling processes. Their fast growth and leaf drop increased organic matter turnover rates, which improved soil quality and fostered rich microbial communities. This, in turn, supported greater productivity and diversity in terrestrial ecosystems. The ecological tapestry became even more intricate, considering that the Cretaceous saw floras differentiated by climate and geography. In tropical and subtropical zones, angiosperms were already flourishing by mid-Cretaceous, forming extensive forests interspersed with conifers. In higher latitudes or more arid regions, older gymnosperm groups persisted longer, leading to mixed forests where interactions between plant groups influenced habitat structure. Another crucial impact of flowering plants was how they altered the carbon cycle and atmospheric chemistry. Their widespread proliferation likely affected atmospheric CO2 and oxygen levels, feeding back into climate systems and potentially modulating the global warmth characteristic of the Cretaceous. What stands out in this botanical renaissance is how it exemplifies an evolutionary arms race, wherein flowers' reproductive innovations gave angiosperms a competitive edge, while herbivores and pollinators adapted in turn. This intricate dance fostered unprecedented biodiversity and set the stage for modern terrestrial ecosystems. As the Cretaceous progressed, the continued diversification and spread of flowering plants reshaped the land into the mosaics of forests, grasslands, and wetlands that we more readily associate with later geological periods. Plants ceased to be a static backdrop. Instead, they became active architects of ecosystems, influencing climate, soil, and animal evolution in profound ways. In reflecting on this significant turning point, one appreciates that the rise of flowering plants was not simply a botanical event, but a pivotal shift in Earth's life history. A revolution that altered the ecological balance and opened new paths for evolutionary creativity. Dinosaurs and other animals adapted to these changes in myriad ways, a topic we'll explore further as we delve into the lives of the great reptilian giants and their interactions with their evolving world. Thus, as the Cretaceous forests blossomed with flowers, the stage was set for intricate biological interactions, driving diversification and complexity that would resonate far beyond this ancient era. Our journey now leads us into the world of the reptilian giants, the sauropods, who navigated this changing flora-rich landscape in their search for sustenance and survival. As we step into the vast and verdant landscapes sculpted by the rise of flowering plants, it is fitting to turn our focus to the majestic reptilian giants of the Cretaceous, the sauropods. These incredible creatures, known for their immense size and distinctive long necks and tails, were among the most iconic and successful herbivores to roam the Earth during this period. Yet, the story of sauropods in the Cretaceous is one of remarkable diversity and adaptation amid a world of ecological transformation. Sauropods, members of the clade Sauropoda, had first appeared much earlier in the late Triassic, but it was during the Jurassic that they truly flourished, growing to colossal sizes and spreading across most of the continental land masses. By the dawn of the Cretaceous, sauropods continued to be a dominant force, but the period also witnessed significant shifts in their diversity, distribution, and evolutionary strategies, reflecting the changing environments and plant communities we have explored. One of the most noteworthy aspects of the Cretaceous sauropods was their variation in form and habit across different continents. Unlike the Jurassic, where more basal or primitive sauropods such as diplodocids prevailed, many Cretaceous sauropods belonged to advanced groups, particularly Tyrannosaurs, which represent some of the last and most diverse sauropods before their ultimate extinction at the end of the Cretaceous. Tyrannosaurs were widespread, with fossil evidence discovered on every continent, including Africa, South America, North America, Asia, and even Antarctica. These sauropods displayed fascinating adaptations, including wide, often armored bodies, relatively shorter necks compared to earlier sauropods, and a unique arrangement of vertebrae that enhanced locomotion and support. One famous example is Argentinosaurus from South America, estimated to have reached lengths exceeding 30 meters, 100 feet, making it one of the largest known land animals. In North America, sauropods were somewhat rarer during the late Cretaceous than in previous periods, partly due to the presence of the enormous western interior seaway, which fragmented habitats and influenced faunal distribution. Still, forms like Alamosaurus, a large titanosaur, roamed the southern parts of the continent, illustrating that sauropods adapted to the shifting environments of the time. The evolution of sauropod diversity in the Cretaceous was closely intertwined with the changes in plant life. As flowering plants became more prevalent, sauropods adapted their feeding strategies in response. While many preferred browsing on gymnosperms and conifers, some evidence suggests they began to exploit angiosperms as additional food sources, reflecting dietary flexibility. Their enormous size allowed them access to high foliage unreachable by other herbivores, which was an important niche in forests rich with towering trees. Intriguingly, Some titanosaurs developed osteoderms, bony plates embedded in their skin, providing protection against predators and possibly playing a role in thermoregulation. This adaptation illustrates the complex ecological pressures these giant reptiles faced in a world shared with fierce theropod predators and competing herbivores. The social behavior of sauropods during the Cretaceous is less directly understood, but inferred through fossil assemblages. Evidence of group living, including trackways and bone beds containing multiple individuals, suggests some species traveled in herds, potentially for protection and social interaction, much like modern large herbivores. While sauropods thrived globally, the Cretaceous also marked the gradual regional decline of some earlier sauropod lineages and the rise of niche specialization among others. For example, in Asia, newly discovered sauropods exhibit distinct morphological traits implying adaptation to local environments and possibly dietary preferences, highlighting the influence of geographic isolation and environmental diversity on dinosaur evolution. Additionally, the fluctuating climates and sea levels of the Cretaceous created a patchwork of habitats, from lush lowland forests to more arid uplands, challenging sauropods to adapt. Fossil evidence from varied depositional environments attests to their ability to inhabit a range of ecological settings, though always favoring areas where abundant vegetation could support their massive food requirements. Their enormous size was not only an advantage for feeding, but also a deterrent against predators. Yet, the presence of large theropods, such as Carcharodontosaurus in Africa and Tyrannosaurus rex in North America, meant that sauropods had to develop behaviors and potentially physiological strategies to mitigate predation risk, including herd living and possibly parental care for young. Sauropods played crucial roles as ecosystem engineers. By consuming vast amounts of vegetation, they influenced plant community structure, seed dispersal, and nutrient cycling. Their trampling and movement reshaped forest landscapes, creating clearings and pathways that other species used. This ecological role was vital in maintaining the diversity and balance of Cretaceous terrestrial ecosystems. As the Cretaceous progressed toward its close, sauropods continued to occupy vital niches but faced increasing competition from other herbivorous dinosaurs, such as hadrosaurs and ceratopsians, whose evolutionary expansions paralleled the rise of angiosperms. This competitive landscape, combined with changing environments, shaped the eventual decline of sauropods by the end of the period. In reflecting on the rich diversity of Cretaceous sauropods, one sees a story of adaptability, of monstrous creatures evolving new forms and strategies to survive in a world undergoing relentless change. Their legacy remains vivid, immortalized by fossil evidence that continues to expand our understanding of their biology and ecology. As our journey continues, we will shift our gaze to the formidable predators that hunted within these same landscapes, the theropods, exploring how their evolving strategies defined the predator-prey dynamics of the Cretaceous and influenced the course of dinosaurian evolution. Building upon the giant herbivorous giants that dominated the Cretaceous landscape, we now turn our attention to a more formidable and dynamic cast of characters, the theropods. These carnivorous dinosaurs, ranging from terrifying apex predators to nimble pack hunters, underwent remarkable evolutionary transformations during the Cretaceous. Their adaptations and strategies positioned them as dominant forces in their ecosystems, shaping predator-prey dynamics and the evolutionary trajectories of countless species. Theropods, primarily bipedal carnivores, had evolved by the late Triassic, laying the groundwork for a diverse array of forms by the Mesozoic Era. However, it was during the Cretaceous that they refined new predatory strategies and diversified into some of the most recognizable taxa known to paleontology. The landscape of this epoch was filled with multiple lineages of theropods, each carving out unique roles in their ecosystems. One such lineage was the Tyrannosaurids, the quintessential colossal predators of North America and Asia during the late Cretaceous. These massive theropods, typified by the famous Tyrannosaurus rex, showcased an evolutionary trend toward extreme size, powerful bite forces, and enhanced sensory capabilities. Tyrannosaurs developed robust skulls and jaws lined with massive serrated teeth, capable of crushing bone and tearing flesh with unparalleled efficiency. Their strong hind limbs allowed impressive bursts of speed for animals of their bulk, while their small but muscular forearms likely had specialized functions, possibly related to mating or prey handling. Meanwhile, in other parts of the world, different theropod groups were evolving distinct adaptations. Carcharodontosaurids, such as Carcharodontosaurus and Giganotosaurus in South America and North Africa, rivaled Tyrannosaurids in size and ferocity. These predators typically possessed blade-like teeth suited for slicing, and their lighter skulls compared to Tyrannosaurids suggest different hunting techniques, possibly favoring swift attacks and slashing wounds. Smaller theropods, such as Dromaeosaurids, famously exemplified by Velociraptor, became increasingly specialized. These agile predators had sharp, curved claws, most notably on the second toe, and exhibited keen intelligence believed to surpass many contemporaneous reptiles. Their relatively large brains and flexible movements likely supported complex hunting behaviors, including pack hunting and ambush tactics. Among the more unusual theropod adaptations were those seen in the ornithomimids, the so-called ostrich-mimic dinosaurs. These theropods evolved lightweight, bird-like bodies with long limbs optimized for speed and endurance. While traditionally interpreted as omnivores or herbivores, recent evidence suggests a wide variety of feeding strategies within this group. Their lack of teeth and small beaks point to an ecological niche quite distinct from their larger carnivorous relatives. A remarkable evolutionary innovation during the Cretaceous was the rise of maniraptoran theropods, a diverse group that would eventually give rise to birds. Maniraptorans developed features such as feathers, advanced respiratory systems, and high metabolic rates, marking a shift toward endothermy, warm-bloodedness. These adaptations allowed for greater stamina, agility, and social interactions, traits advantageous for hunting and niche exploitation. The interplay between theropod evolution and the changing environment was evident in their diverse hunting strategies. Large carnivores relied on ambush tactics, powerful bites, and physical dominance to subdue prey. Smaller, more agile theropods employed cunning, speed, and group coordination. Some may have been opportunistic scavengers, taking advantage of carcasses when the opportunity arose. The diverse flora, including the spreading flowering plants, influenced prey availability and habitat structures, which in turn shaped predator hunting methods. Additionally, sensory adaptations in theropods were impressive. Enhanced vision, keen olfactory senses, and acute hearing equipped them to detect prey and rivals in varied environments. Studies of cranial endocasts, brain cavity impressions, reveal well-developed brain areas related to these senses, underscoring their role as efficient hunters. Theropods also developed complex social behaviors, possibly including parental care, territoriality, and cooperative hunting. Fossilized trackways and nesting sites suggest that some species may have lived and hunted in family groups, coordinating attacks on larger prey or protecting young from threats. These social advancements would represent a significant leap in predatory ecology. Despite their evolutionary success, theropods operated within heavily competitive ecosystems. They faced other predatory dinosaurs, crocodilian reptiles, and emerging mammalian carnivores. Their evolutionary arms race with herbivores led to escalating defensive adaptations in prey species, such as armor, horns, and herd behaviors. This dynamic interaction fostered biodiversity and drove continuous biological innovation. Moreover, the broad ecological niches occupied by theropods during the Cretaceous illuminate the evolutionary flexibility of this clade. From the enormous apex predators terrifying Tyrannosaurs to quick-footed pack hunters stalking smaller ornithischians, theropods exploited nearly every carnivorous niche available. Their evolutionary experiments in form and function paved the way for the origin of birds and shaped the terrestrial ecosystems in profound ways. In summation, the Cretaceous era witnessed a flourishing of theropods that combined physical power, advanced sensory systems, versatile hunting methods, and social behaviors. These developments ensured that they remained at the top of the food chain and exerted significant influence over their environments. As our voyage through the Cretaceous continues, we will next focus on a particularly fascinating subset of theropods, the maniraptorans. These clever and adaptable dinosaurs not only dominated many ecological niches, but also paved the evolutionary pathway toward modern birds, bridging the ancient past and the present. Following the rise of powerful theropod predators in the Cretaceous, our narrative turns to a fascinating and incredibly significant group of dinosaurs known as the maniraptorans. These dinosaurs were not only diverse and ecologically successful, but also represented a pivotal evolutionary link to modern birds. Their intelligence, adaptability, and innovative behaviors earned them the title of clever survivors, qualities that helped them flourish in a rapidly changing world. Maniraptoran dinosaurs first emerged during the Jurassic, but reached their remarkable diversity and ecological prominence during the Cretaceous period. This clade is characterized by a suite of anatomical features, including a semi-lunate carpal bone in the wrist, which allowed greater flexibility and precision in the movement of their forelimbs, an innovation that would later become essential for flight in birds. In form and function, maniraptorans spanned a broad ecological range. Small and feathered, many were agile predators and omnivores, employing complex hunting and scavenging strategies. Families within this group include the dromaeosaurids, often called raptors, troodontids, and oviraptorosaurs, each showcasing unique adaptations that allowed them to exploit a wide array of food resources and habitats. Dromaeosaurids, such as Velociraptor and Deinonychus, were known for their distinctive sickle-shaped claws on the second toe and their acute senses, which likely enabled them to be highly effective hunters. Their relatively large brains, keen eyesight, and possibly sophisticated social behaviors suggest intelligence levels that were far beyond many other dinosaurs. These attributes point to complex predatory strategies, including stalking and perhaps pack hunting, adapting to both small and larger prey in diverse environments. Troodontids represent some of the most neurologically advanced non-avian dinosaurs. Their large brain-to-body ratio, keen binocular vision, and acute hearing underscore a capacity for problem-solving and environmental awareness. Some studies suggest troodontids had feathers, were warm-blooded, and may have had advanced parental care behaviors, traits that would foster survival in fluctuating and challenging environments. Their diet was likely varied, including small vertebrates, insects, and plant matter, demonstrating ecological flexibility. Oviraptorosaurs intrigued paleontologists for their unusual jaw structure and possible omnivorous diet. While early interpretations painted them as egg thieves, more recent fossil discoveries have shown that many were likely caring parents, and their feeding habits might have included plants, small animals, and eggs. Certain groups within this family evolved elaborate cranial crests and feathers, indicating social signaling played a role in their behavior and reproduction. The development and widespread presence of feathers in maniraptorans is one of the most pivotal discoveries in paleontology. Feathers likely served multiple functions beyond flight, including insulation, display, camouflage, and brooding of eggs. The ability to regulate body temperature was an evolutionary advantage in diverse climates, especially as the Cretaceous saw climatic fluctuations and habitat fragmentation. Maniraptorans occupied a vast range of habitats, from dense forests to more open plains, showcasing their adaptive capacity. Their relatively small size compared to larger theropods allowed exploitation of ecological niches unavailable to their bulky cousins. Their evolutionary innovations in locomotion and sensory perception made them adept survivors, often succeeding in post-disturbance settings where ecosystems were reshaped by volcanic activity, climate shifts, or vegetation change. Crucially, the maniraptoran lineage set the stage for the evolution of true birds, avian dinosaurs. Early birds like Archaeopteryx shared many maniraptoran features, including feathers, a wishbone, and a partially reversed hallux, big toe, for perching. Throughout the Cretaceous, bird-like maniraptorans diversified and spread across continents, occupying niches from terrestrial to arboreal and even aerial habitats. This evolutionary radiation highlights a remarkable story of adaptation and survival. While many dinosaur groups declined during the later Cretaceous, maniraptorans thrived by embracing novel survival strategies, enhanced cognition, social complexity, and versatility in diet and habitat. These qualities not only preserved their lineage through the end Cretaceous extinction event, but also seeded one of the most successful vertebrate groups in modern ecosystems: birds. Our exploration of these clever survivors illustrates how evolution can favor innovation in intellect, behavior, and physiology, allowing species to navigate profound environmental challenges. It underscores the interconnectedness of anatomy, ecology, and climate in molding life's history. As we move forward, we will explore other remarkable groups of Cretaceous dinosaurs, those armored and ornate species whose unique defenses and social behaviors further contributed to the rich and varied ecosystems of this dynamic era. As we continue our journey through the lush and dynamic ecosystems of the Cretaceous, the spotlight now shifts to some of the most fascinating and visually striking dinosaur groups. Those armored and ornate creatures whose defensive adaptations and distinctive features became hallmarks of Cretaceous faunas. Among these, the ankylosaurs, nodosaurids, and ceratopsians stand out as remarkable examples of evolutionary innovation, representing diverse strategies of survival and display in a world filled with both mighty predators and intense interspecies competition. Beginning with ankylosaurs, the term often evokes images of heavily armored quadrupeds with clubbed tails, sporting protective bony plates embedded in their skin, osteoderms, that acted as living suits of armor. Ankylosaurs appeared as early as the Jurassic, but achieved their greatest diversity and specialization during the Cretaceous. Their wide, squat bodies were low to the ground, and their skeletal armor shielded them from attacks, particularly from large theropods. The ankylosaurid family is famed for genera such as Ankylosaurus, whose massive tail club is one of the most iconic defensive weapons in the dinosaur world. This formidable weapon could deliver powerful blows capable of deterring or injuring attackers, a living mace swinging with force. Their skulls were often broad and covered with knobs and ridges, giving them a fierce and knobby visage. In contrast, nodosaurids, close relatives within ankylosaurs but lacking the characteristic tail club, relied more on substantial armor covering the body, including spikes and plates along their sides and backs. Their elongated bodies were often adorned with defensive spines, making them difficult prey to tackle. Nodosaurids' armor patterns and morphology varied significantly among species, reflecting adaptations to different environments and predators. They displayed a slower, more defensive style compared to agile theropods, depending on their formidable armor to survive. Both ankylosaurids and nodosaurids inhabited varied landscapes, from dense forests to open floodplains, with fossil evidence indicating wide geographic distribution across North America, Europe, and Asia. Their diets were herbivorous, with broad, leaf-shaped teeth ideal for processing the tough vegetation of the Cretaceous, including the rising diversity of flowering plants. Their low-slung bodies and beaked mouths suggest that they were primarily ground-level browsers, specializing in feeding within low vegetation strata. Turning to ceratopsians, these dinosaurs brought a very different kind of ornamentation to the Cretaceous world. Ornate skulls featuring horns, frills, and sometimes elaborate facial bosses. Ceratopsians ranged from small, primitive forms early in the Cretaceous to the large, robust, and highly decorated genera like Triceratops by the late Cretaceous. Their name, meaning horned face, vividly captures their hallmark appearance. Ceratopsians evolved from more generalized ornithischian ancestors, developing a characteristic beak for cropping vegetation and teeth arranged in complex dental batteries for efficient chewing. The frills at the back of their skulls, often adorned with scalloped edges, fenestrations, openings, and sometimes hooked or horn-like projections, may have served multiple functions. These ranged from species recognition and sexual display to thermoregulation and defense. The horns of ceratopsians varied widely among species, from long, sweeping brow horns to smaller nose or frill spikes, offering both offensive and defensive capabilities. These animals likely used their horns in intraspecific combat, including battles for mates or territory, as well as to defend against predators. Fossil evidence showing healed injuries supports the idea that such confrontations were common. Ceratopsians were predominantly herbivorous grazers, feeding on the burgeoning Cretaceous flora. Their dental adaptations allowed them to process fibrous plant materials efficiently, including tough angiosperm leaves and woody vegetation. They thrived in various environments, from coastal plains to inland forests, with abundant fossil finds primarily in North America and Asia. In terms of social behavior, evidence from bone beds and trackways suggests that many ceratopsians lived in groups or herds. This sociality would have provided protection from predators and facilitated cooperative behaviors. The communal rearing of young is also inferred from nesting sites discovered, revealing sophisticated reproductive strategies. The coexistence of these armored and ornate dinosaurs with the dominant theropod predators created complex ecological dynamics. Their defensive adaptations posed significant challenges to predators, influencing hunting strategies and driving evolutionary arms races. Conversely, these herbivores' feeding behaviors shaped vegetation patterns and influenced other species, contributing to broader ecosystem structuring. Furthermore, the diversity within and between ankylosaurs, nodosaurids, and ceratopsians highlights how different approaches to defense and display could evolve in parallel, each finely tuned to their unique ecological niches. While ankylosaurs invested in solid armor and tail weaponry, ceratopsians focused on cranial ornamentation and social signaling. Together, they painted a rich picture of Cretaceous biodiversity and adaptation. As we contemplate these armored and ornate dinosaurs, we appreciate the intricate evolutionary dance that played out across millions of years, blending brute defense with visual spectacle. Their legacy fascinates us not only because of their dramatic appearances, but also because they encapsulate the interplay of survival, competition, and beauty in Earth's deep past. Moving forward, we will examine how many of these dinosaurs exhibited complex social behaviors, forming herds and developing defense mechanisms that underpinned their success. Exploring the social lives and collective strategies of herding dinosaurs, will unlock further insights into the dynamics of Cretaceous ecosystems and their inhabitants. Moving beyond the distinctive individual adaptations of the armored and ornate dinosaurs, we now delve into the complex social worlds of herding dinosaurs and their multifaceted defense strategies. The Cretaceous period, with its shifting climates and landscapes, fostered an environment where sociality, the tendency to live and interact in groups, became a powerful evolutionary tool. This collective lifestyle offered both protection and survival advantages for many herbivores, enabling them to thrive despite the omnipresent threat of predation. The evidence for social behavior in dinosaurs, particularly herbivorous groups like ceratopsians, hadrosaurids, ankylosaurs, and nodosaurids, has expanded dramatically over the past decades. Fossil sites known as bone beds, containing the remains of numerous individuals from a single species, often suggest group living or herd behavior. Additionally, trackways that display parallel, coordinated movement confirm that these dinosaurs traveled in loose or tightly knit groups, facilitating social interaction. Herding provided several clear advantages. From a defensive standpoint, safety in numbers reduced the vulnerability of any single animal. Large groups could detect approaching predators more efficiently through enhanced vigilance. Alarm calls, visual signals, and coordinated behaviors could disrupt predator strategies, while group formations presented physical barriers against attacks. Within a herd, individuals positioned themselves to maximize protection. For example, juveniles might be kept centrally surrounded by adults, thereby reducing their risk. In ankylosaurs and nodosaurids, sociality likely complemented their formidable physical defenses. While their heavy armor and spiked osteoderms were the first line of defense, group living enhanced protection by increasing collective vigilance and complicating predation attempts. Fossils of these armored dinosaurs sometimes occur in close associations, indicating possible herding or, at the very least, repeated use of favored habitats supportive of multiple individuals. Among ceratopsians, herding behavior is particularly well documented. Large bone beds of Centrosaurus and Pachyrhinosaurus, containing dozens or even hundreds of individuals of varied ages, indicate these animals formed substantial groups, possibly migrating or moving seasonally. These massive herds not only provided defense through sheer numbers, but also social enrichment, which likely included coordinated movement, communication through visual displays, such as bright frills or horn postures, and vocalizations. The elaborate cranial ornamentation seen in ceratopsians had dual functions in sociality and defense. Frills and horns helped individuals recognize members of their own species and possibly assess status or reproductive fitness, vital factors in herd cohesion and mating systems. In physical confrontations, these structures could defend against predators or be used in intraspecific combat. Hadrosaurids, or duck-billed dinosaurs, were also notable herd animals. Their fossil records show vast nesting colonies and frequent assemblages, highlighting highly social lifestyles. The anatomical adaptations of hadrosaurs, for example, tooth batteries specialized for processing tough plant material, complemented their social strategies by enabling them to exploit abundant vegetation collectively. The defensive behaviors of herds extended beyond mere numbers. Many dinosaur groups relied on group vigilance, coordinated movement, and possibly even defensive formations to protect vulnerable members. Evidence suggests that some groups may have engaged in active defense, such as herding juveniles toward a threat, or using threatening displays to intimidate predators. Fossilized injuries on some dinosaurs hint at battles involving multiple individuals, underscoring the interactive nature of their defense. Communication played a crucial role in the social dynamics of herding dinosaurs. While direct vocal evidence is impossible to recover, anatomical structures like crests and nasal passages hint at the capacity for producing sounds. For instance, hadrosaur crests likely functioned as resonators for calls that could maintain group cohesion over long distances or warn of danger. Similarly, visual and tactile cues, including postural displays, may have enriched their social interactions. The advantages of sociality were not confined to defense, but extended to reproductive strategies and resource exploitation. Herd living could facilitate cooperative nesting and protection of offspring, enhancing juvenile survival rates, vital for the long-term maintenance of populations. Moreover, groups could move en masse to exploit seasonal food resources, enabling dinosaurs to adapt to changing environmental conditions with greater success. Sociality also influenced predator-prey relationships, shaping evolutionary pressures. Predators faced with coordinated prey groups had to develop new hunting strategies, encouraging an evolutionary arms race that enhanced the sophistication of both predator and prey behavior. These dynamics contributed to the richness and complexity of the Cretaceous ecosystems. Comparisons with modern herd animals, such as elephants, bison, and certain antelope species, provide valuable insight into the likely behaviors of herding dinosaurs. While direct equivalence is impossible, these comparisons help reconstruct aspects of social organization, communication, and defense mechanisms that would have been essential in a world dominated by large herbivorous groups. In conclusion, the rise of herding in armored and ornately decorated dinosaurs represented a pivotal evolutionary solution to living under constant threat. Their social behaviors, from group living and cooperative defense to visual signaling and communication, underpinned the survival success of many species throughout the Cretaceous. These social strategies complement the physical adaptations we have previously explored, revealing a multi-layered approach to survival and ecological dominance. Looking ahead, our journey will lead us into the vibrant and diverse Cretaceous seas, where marine reptiles like mosasaurs and plesiosaurs reigned supreme. These aquatic worlds offer a fascinating contrast to the terrestrial herds and armored giants, emphasizing the breadth of life and adaptation during the Cretaceous era. Transitioning from the sprawling herds and armored warriors of land, we now embark into the vast and dynamic world of the Cretaceous seas, a realm teeming with life where marine reptiles like mosasaurs and plesiosaurs reigned supreme. These ancient oceans were hubs of biodiversity, supporting complex ecosystems that rivaled the terrestrial dominance of dinosaurs, while reflecting intricate interactions shaped by evolutionary innovation and environmental change. The Cretaceous period witnessed significant expansions and transformations in marine ecosystems. Rising global sea levels inundated continental interiors, forming shallow epicontinental seas that stretched for thousands of kilometers. These warm, nutrient-rich waters created habitats with incredible productivity, attracting a multitude of marine organisms, from microscopic plankton to massive reptilian predators. Among the most spectacular inhabitants of these seas were the mosasaurs. Emerging from earlier squamate reptiles, mosasaurs evolved during the late Cretaceous into large, formidable marine predators, occupying top positions in the food web. Morphologically, mosasaurs resembled gigantic aquatic lizards, possessing elongated bodies, powerful tails adapted for efficient swimming, and strong jaws filled with conical, sharp teeth, suited for grasping and slicing through prey. Mosasaurs varied in size, with some of the largest species reaching lengths over 15 meters, nearly 50 feet. Their fossil record spans every continent, illustrating a wide geographic distribution that reflected their adaptability to diverse marine environments, from shallow coastal waters to the open ocean. Their diets were equally diverse, including fish, ammonites, smaller marine reptiles, and even seabirds, demonstrating predatory versatility. Plesiosaurs, another group that flourished in Cretaceous seas, presented a strikingly different morphology, but were equally dominant. Comprised mainly of two forms, the long-necked elasmosaurs and the shorter-necked plesiosaurs, plesiosaurs specialized in distinct ecological roles. Elasmosaurs, with their extraordinarily elongated necks and small heads, likely used stealth and precision to catch small fish and squid, whereas plesiosaurs were robust, fast swimmers with large jaws capable of overpowering larger prey. Both mosasaurs and plesiosaurs utilized limb modifications for propulsion, with plesiosaurs depending on four large paddle-like flippers to fly underwater, granting remarkable maneuverability. Their streamlined bodies allowed efficient movement through various marine habitats, from reef systems to deeper offshore waters. The Cretaceous seas also supported a rich diversity of fish, including bony fishes, teleosts, sharks, and rays, forming vital components of the marine food web both as prey and predators. Alongside reptiles, these groups contributed to complex predator-prey dynamics, influencing evolutionary arms races. Ammonites, among the most iconic invertebrates of the Cretaceous oceans, thrived during this era with many brightly coiled varieties. These shelled cephalopods provided essential food resources for marine reptiles and fish, and served as key indicators in stratigraphic studies of the period. Beyond these, early marine birds began to take to the air and water, overlapping habitats with mosasaurs and plesiosaurs. Their presence hinted at growing specialization and niche partitioning in coastal and near-shore ecosystems. Environmental variability influenced marine life profoundly. Shifting sea temperatures, changing ocean currents, and episodic anoxic events affected species distribution and abundance. Some mosasaurs evolved traits favoring deep diving, while many plesiosaurs occupied shallower waters or specialized niches. Furthermore, fossil evidence reveals complex reproductive strategies among marine reptiles, including potential viviparity, the birth of live young, allowing their full adaptation to aquatic life without returning to land. The interplay among marine reptiles, fish, cephalopods, and early seabirds created ecologically rich and dynamic communities, marked by an ongoing balance of competition, predation, and cooperation. Ultimately, the dominance of mosasaurs and plesiosaurs during the Cretaceous exemplifies the diverse responses of life to the challenges and opportunities offered by our planet's changing oceans. Their reign, however, came to an abrupt end during the mass extinction event at the close of the period, reshaping marine ecosystems forever. As we prepare to transition from seas to skies, the next chapter will soar with the avian revolution. Early birds and their widespread expansion throughout the Cretaceous world, bridging the ancient past with the origins of modern aerial fauna. As we transition from the ancient seas dominated by monstrous marine reptiles, we now rise into the skies, tracing the extraordinary emergence and expansion of early birds during the Cretaceous period. This spectacular avian revolution marked a transformative chapter in Earth's biological history, where dinosaurs began experimenting with flight in increasingly sophisticated ways, culminating in forms that would give rise to the birds we see today. Early birds evolved from small feathered theropod dinosaurs, notably from a group called maniraptoran theropods. These ancestors exhibited a combination of dinosaurian and avian features: feathers for insulation and display, grasping hands, and lightweight but strong bone structures that set the stage for flight. The iconic Archaeopteryx from the late Jurassic is often considered one of the earliest birds, possessing both teeth and long bony tails alongside flight feathers. However, it is during the Cretaceous, approximately 145 to 66 million years ago, that birds truly diversified and flourished. Significant fossil discoveries, particularly in China's Jehol biota, have unveiled a stunning array of early bird species exhibiting a remarkable range of morphologies and ecological adaptations. Some possessed long, elaborate tail feathers likely used for display. Others showed evidence of strong flight musculature and refined aerodynamic forms, allowing better maneuverability and endurance. This period witnessed the early divergence of two major avian groups: the enantiorniths, sometimes called opposite birds because of unique skeletal traits, and the ornithuromorpha, the clade including all modern birds, neorniths. Enantiornithans were diverse and widespread, occupying global niches ranging from arboreal to aquatic environments, often sporting sharp claws and teeth indicating varied diets. Ornithuromorphs, meanwhile, evolved more advanced features, including a keeled sternum for powerful flight muscles, a key development for sustained flight seen in modern birds. The expansion of flowering plants during the Cretaceous coincided with this avian radiation, which offered new ecological opportunities. Early birds likely exploited novel food sources such as fruits, seeds, and nectar, as well as insects attracted by flowering plants. This mutualistic relationship between birds and angiosperms laid foundations for coevolution, influencing bird diversification and plant reproduction alike. Further evidence suggests that early birds exhibited complex behaviors such as nesting, brooding of eggs, and possibly parental care. Fossilized nests containing eggs and embryos reveal that many species invested substantial effort in raising their young, enhancing survival. These reproductive strategies contributed to the ecological success of birds, despite the dominance of large non-avian dinosaurs. Moreover, the evolution of feathers in Cretaceous birds was multifaceted. Feathers provided insulation, aiding thermoregulation, and served in visual communication through color and pattern variation. In flight, feathers improved aerodynamic control, allowing early birds to exploit diverse aerial niches from soaring and gliding to flapping flight. Cretaceous birds coexisted and competed with the pterosaurs, the ruling flying reptiles of the time. While pterosaurs declined throughout the Cretaceous, birds gradually increased in diversity and abundance, possibly outcompeting or occupying niches that pterosaurs vacated. This dynamic illustrates how birds evolved to fill a variety of aerial and terrestrial roles in Mesozoic ecosystems. The geographic distribution of Cretaceous birds was broad. Fossils unearthed in continents from North America and Europe to Asia and Antarctica indicate their capability to inhabit diverse climatic zones, from tropical forests to polar regions, highlighting their adaptability. Climate fluctuations and habitat fragmentation may have spurred evolutionary pressures that accelerated bird diversification. Despite their growing success, early birds faced considerable challenges: predation by large theropods, competition for nesting sites, and environmental upheavals tested their resilience. Their small size and flight offered avenues of escape and refuge that terrestrial giants lacked, advantages that perhaps helped some avian lineages survive the cataclysmic end Cretaceous extinction. This extinction event saw the demise of non-avian dinosaurs and many other groups, but various bird lineages endured, giving rise to all modern avian diversity. Their roots deep in the Cretaceous avian revolution fostered a legacy extending from fragile feathered creatures of ancient skies to the vast array of birds that color our world today. As we conclude this exploration of early birds' remarkable rise, the upcoming chapter will delve deeper into their aerial contemporaries, the diverse and enigmatic pterosaurs. Together, birds and pterosaurs painted the ancient skies with life, forming a rich aerial community that shaped Mesozoic ecosystems in unique and fascinating ways. As we journey onward from the skies occupied by the first birds and their flying reptilian contemporaries, our exploration delves into a realm often overlooked, but no less vital to the intricate web of Cretaceous life, the world of insects and arthropods. Amid the lush landscapes of flowering plants and towering conifers, swarms of these small but crucial creatures flourished, evolving new forms and roles that profoundly influenced and intertwined with the lives of dinosaurs and the broader ecosystem. Arthropods, the phylum that includes insects, spiders, crustaceans, and their kin, have long been pivotal components of terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems, their origins stretching deep into the Paleozoic era. During the Cretaceous, arthropods underwent notable diversification, underpinning numerous ecological functions such as pollination, herbivory, predation, decomposition, and soil formation. This period represents a formative time in which many modern groups began to take shape, and ecological interactions with plants and vertebrates, including dinosaurs, became more complex and specialized. One of the defining drivers of arthropod evolution in the Cretaceous was the rise of angiosperms, the flowering plants. As these plants proliferated and diversified across terrestrial habitats, they presented new ecological opportunities in the form of nectar, pollen, fruit, and novel foliage types. Insects and other arthropods rapidly responded, evolving specialized mouthparts, behaviors, and life cycles adapted to these resources. Pollinating insects such as early bees, wasps, butterflies, and flies became central to the reproductive success of many flowering plant species, establishing mutualistic relationships that would endure through time. These pollination networks not only influenced plant evolution, but also shaped the diets and interactions of other animals. Dinosaurs, especially herbivores, encountered a more diverse and palatable array of plants thanks to the complex interplay between plants and insect herbivores. Early angiosperms might have been less chemically defended than gymnosperms, partly due to their reliance on insect interactions, thus attracting a range of herbivorous dinosaurs seeking novel food sources. Beyond their role as pollinators, arthropods served as a significant food resource for many animals. Small theropods likely preyed upon insects and other invertebrates, making arthropod abundance a crucial ecological factor. Fossilized stomach contents and coprolites, fossilized feces, of some dinosaurs reveal insect remains, underscoring their dietary role. Some small dinosauromorphs may have specialized in insectivory, while others hunted arthropods opportunistically. In addition, the Cretaceous saw the continued evolution of predatory arthropods. Spiders refined their web structures and hunting techniques, while predatory beetles and mantises occupied key ecological niches. These arthropods influenced the behavior and ecological strategies of herbivorous insects, driving evolutionary arms races involving camouflage, chemical defenses, and mimicry, which in turn impacted the plants with which they interacted. Social insects, such as early ants and termites, emerged or expanded during the Cretaceous, marking instrumental shifts in ecosystem processes like decomposition, soil aeration, and nutrient cycling. Their colony-building behaviors and complex social organization likely had cascading effects on vegetation and the habitats available to other creatures, including small vertebrates. Aquatic arthropods, including various crustaceans and ancient relatives of modern shrimp and crabs, thrived in Cretaceous freshwater and marine environments. These organisms played essential roles in food webs, recycling organic matter, and providing sustenance for fishes, reptiles, and early birds reliant on aquatic or semi-aquatic habitats. The interactions between arthropods and dinosaurs also extended to parasitism and mutualism. Evidence, though rare, suggests that parasitic insects may have afflicted dinosaurs, perhaps in ways similar to modern ticks or lice afflicting large mammals. Mites and other small arthropods could have grazed upon dead skin or eggs, contributing silently to the ecosystem's complexity. Such close ecological relationships underscore that the Cretaceous terrestrial world was not solely shaped by the grand tales of giant dinosaurs, but equally by the tiny, often unseen arthropods that influenced food resources, plant reproduction, and soil health. Their evolutionary innovations bolstered the success of flowering plants and reptilian herbivores alike, and crafted new ecological niches ripe for exploitation. Furthermore, the fossil record of insects and arthropods, including exquisitely preserved specimens trapped in amber from places like Myanmar, has shed light on their diversity, behavior, and morphology during this time. These amber deposits sometimes reveal intricate details of insect life, including interactions with plants and occasional glimpses into the paleoecology of these tiny but decisive players. In essence, the Cretaceous insect revolution embodied a quiet but profound shift that reverberated through food chains and habitats. By diversifying alongside flowering plants and dinosaurs, arthropods not only survived but thrived, contributing indispensably to the evolutionary narrative of this vibrant era. As we progress, we will lift our sights back to the heavens, exploring the Cretaceous skies where pterosaurs ruled the air, exhibiting their own evolutionary radiations and interactions in a realm shared with early birds, adding yet another layer of complexity and wonder to the story of life in the age of dinosaurs. As we lift our eyes toward the vast expanse of the Cretaceous skies, we enter a world alive with soaring reptiles, pterosaurs, masters of the air long before the dominance of modern birds. The Cretaceous period, spanning nearly 80 million years, witnessed an extraordinary radiation of these flying reptiles, showcasing a rich tapestry of aerial diversity and ecological complexity that rivaled and often complemented the early birds emerging below. Pterosaurs first appeared in the late Triassic, pioneering vertebrate flight millions of years before birds took to the skies. By the Cretaceous, they had evolved into an astounding variety of forms, ranging from small, agile flyers with wingspans scarcely over a meter to colossal giants with wingspans surpassing 10 meters, soaring explorers of ancient skies. Their success lay in their distinctive anatomy, including light, hollow bones, elongated fourth fingers supporting expansive wing membranes, and sophisticated flight muscles. During the early to mid-Cretaceous, pterosaur diversity flourished, encompassing multiple families such as the ornithochirids, ajdarchids, and pteranodontids, each adapted to different ecological roles. Ornithochirids, with their pronounced crests and long wings, were primarily coastal gliders and fishers, using their streamlined bodies to skim over oceans and estuaries in pursuit of fish and marine invertebrates. Impressive fossils from Europe and South America reveal their presence soaring above ancient shorelines. The pteranodontids, better known from North America, displayed distinctive crests and occupied niches similar to modern seabirds, feeding mainly on fish but capable of varied diets. Larger than many of their contemporaries, these pterosaurs wielded impressive flight efficiency, likely capable of dynamic soaring across open waters. However, the giants of the Cretaceous skies were the ajdarchids, a family of pterosaurs exemplified by forms such as Quetzalcoatlus, one of the largest known flying animals in Earth's history. These titans had long, stiffened necks, large heads with toothless beaks, and relatively lightweight bodies built for sustained flight despite their enormous size. Ajdarchids are believed to have been terrestrial stalkers, much like modern storks or ground hornbills, stalking across floodplains and forests to prey upon small vertebrates, eggs, and carrion. The aerial niche of pterosaurs was diversified not only by size and feeding habits, but also by behavior and habitat preference. Some species specialized in coastal fishing, others in inland forest gliding, or even inland hunting. This ecological partitioning reduced competition among ptero species and between pterosaurs and birds, facilitating coexistence. The wings of pterosaurs were complex structures composed of skin, muscle, and fibers called actinofibrils, granting control and maneuverability. Studies of pterosaur wing membranes and musculature show that they could rapidly adjust wing shape for efficient flight in various conditions, whether soaring, flapping, or landing. Their ability to launch into flight, often from a quadrupedal stance using all four limbs, was a remarkable evolutionary innovation, allowing them to take off swiftly without the need for elevated perches. Feathered dinosaurs and early birds coexisted and competed in aerial realms, yet the two groups likely occupied different ecological and behavioral niches. Birds evolved feathers and beaks, allowing for a wide array of feeding strategies and efficient flapping flight, whereas pterosaurs relied on membranous wings and often had specialized jaw structures suited to their preferred diets. However, by the late Cretaceous, pterosaur diversity declined, possibly influenced by ecological changes and the rise of more advanced birds. Smaller pterosaurs became increasingly rare, leaving only the largest ajdarchids dominating the skies until the end of the period. Fossil evidence, including trackways, bone beds, and flight-related bone adaptations, continues to provide insight into pterosaur behavior. Some species likely nested in colonies, while footprints indicate diverse locomotion capabilities on the ground. Evidence of growth rates suggests rapid juvenile development, possibly to quickly reach sizes that reduced predation risk. The extinction of pterosaurs at the end of the Cretaceous, coincident with the demise of the non-avian dinosaurs, marked the end of an era of unparalleled aerial reptiles. Yet, their legacy lives on in modern vertebrate flight, inspiring continued scientific exploration and fascination. With the fascinating aerial realm fulfilled, our exploration next descends once again to the freshwater systems and verdant forests, where dinosaurs and other creatures flourished along rivers, lakes, and wetlands, ecosystems integral to the tapestry of Cretaceous life. As we descend from the ancient skies that once echoed with the wings of pterosaurs and early birds, our journey brings us into the verdant realms of freshwater ecosystems, the rivers, lakes, and wetlands that wove through the terrestrial landscapes of the Cretaceous. These habitats were vibrant oases, nurturing a diverse array of life and serving as critical environments where dinosaurs, reptiles, amphibians, plants, and countless invertebrates intersected in intricate ecological webs. Freshwater systems in the Cretaceous were richly complex, fluctuating with changing climates, sea levels, and tectonic activity. Meandering rivers carved their paths across floodplains dotted with vast wetlands, oxbow lakes, and marshes. These environments supported lush vegetation, including ferns, cycads, conifers, and increasingly abundant flowering plants. The interplay between water and vegetation created habitats rich in food and shelter, essential for numerous species' survival. Rivers and lakes acted as ecological highways, facilitating migration, dispersal, and gene flow among populations. They also functioned as refuges during dry periods, offering vital access to water and vegetation. Cretaceous wetlands were hotspots of productivity, characterized by abundant plant biomass, aquatic insects, amphibians, and fish, providing resources for herbivorous and carnivorous dinosaurs alike. Dinosaurs exhibited a remarkable array of adaptations suited to these freshwater environments. Sauropods may have frequented riverbanks to drink and forage, their massive size allowing them to traverse vast stretches of land between water sources. Hadrosaurids, often considered semi-aquatic, thrived near lakes and rivers, where their beak-like mouths and complex dental batteries processed a wide variety of aquatic and terrestrial plants. Theropods also interacted closely with freshwater habitats. Some species, such as spinosaurids, display anatomical adaptations suggesting piscivory. They likely specialized in hunting fish and aquatic prey. Spinosaurids possessed elongated skulls filled with conical teeth and robust forelimbs with hooked claws, ideal for catching slippery prey in riverine or estuarine environments. Their semi-aquatic lifestyle possibly included wading along shores and submerged ambush hunting, revealing the diverse ecological strategies exploited during this period. Beyond dinosaurs, freshwater ecosystems were home to crocodiliforms, ancient relatives of modern crocodiles, ranging from small, agile species to large, ambush predators inhabiting rivers and lakes. These reptiles played important roles as apex or mesopredators, competing with dinosaurs and other carnivores for aquatic and terrestrial resources. Amphibians flourished in these watery habitats as well. Frogs, salamanders, and more primitive forms contributed to insect population control and served as prey for larger animals. Their presence signals the importance of moist, temperate environments for sustaining biodiversity. Aquatic and semi-aquatic invertebrates, including abundant insect larvae, crustaceans, mollusks, and worms, formed foundational components of these ecosystems. These organisms processed detritus, recycled nutrients, and fueled food webs supporting larger vertebrates. Many insects at various life stages completed parts of their life cycles in fresh water, linking aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems. Vegetation along water margins, riparian forests, formed vital buffers protecting waterways and creating microhabitats. Trees and shrubs stabilized sediments, filtered runoff, and provided shade, moderating water temperature and quality. Fallen leaves and branches entered aquatic systems, supplying organic matter crucial for invertebrate populations. The fossil record reveals remarkable preservation of freshwater ecosystems, with sites such as the Morrison Formation in North America and the Jahal Biota in China, offering insights into the diversity and interrelations of organisms. Fossils of fish, turtles, crocodilians, amphibians, insects, and mammals alongside dinosaurs elucidate community complexity and ecological dynamics. Seasonal variations significantly influenced freshwater habitats. Periods of flooding and drought altered water availability and vegetation patterns, imposing challenges that shaped species' life history traits and behavior. Many animals developed migratory patterns, burrowing abilities, or reproductive strategies timed to environmental rhythms to cope with these fluctuations. Reproductive tactics in freshwater dinosaurs included nesting near water sources, where humidity and temperature provided suitable conditions for egg incubation. Parental care, inferred from fossilized nesting sites and juvenile assemblages, likely enhanced offspring survival amid predation risks and environmental variables. In sum, the rivers, lakes, and wetlands of the Cretaceous were dynamic, life-sustaining arenas where aquatic and terrestrial worlds converged. They fostered biodiversity, nurtured evolutionary innovations, and served as critical habitats underpinning the survival of myriad species. Our journey through the Cretaceous is far from over. From these freshwater sanctuaries, we will venture next into the extremes, exploring how dinosaurs and other creatures adapted to polarized and arid regions, revealing the resilience and versatility of life etched in Earth's deep past. Venturing beyond the typically lush and temperate environments often associated with the Cretaceous period, we encounter ecosystems shaped by extremes, polar cold, extended darkness, and aridity that posed formidable challenges to life. Yet, these demanding landscapes were not refugees devoid of dinosaurian activity. Instead, they stood as arenas of remarkable adaptation and resilience, revealing the versatility and survival ingenuity of dinosaurs living on the planet's climatic and geographic edges. The polar regions of the Cretaceous, though markedly different from today's ice-covered poles, nonetheless endured long periods of darkness during winter months and reduced sunlight intensity. The continents of Alaska, Siberia, Antarctica, and northern Canada occupied positions much closer to the poles than today, yet maintaining generally warmer global temperatures meant these areas supported forests and diverse faunas. Evidence of coniferous forests, ferns, and early flowering plants from fossilized pollen and wood illustrates that sizable ecosystems flourished despite seasonal challenges. Dinosaurs thrived in these polar latitudes, adapting to prolonged darkness and potential cold spells. Fossil discoveries indicate the presence of large herbivorous dinosaurs, including hadrosaurs and nodosaurids, as well as predators like theropods. The endurance of these species in such environments suggests behavioral or physiological adaptations, possibly seasonal migrations, hibernation-like states, or unique metabolic strategies to cope with reduced food availability and harsh conditions. Studies of bone histology in polar dinosaurs reveal growth patterns indicating slower growth rates during winter months, implying a seasonal slowdown in metabolism, akin to modern animals in similar climates. Thick insulating integuments such as feathers or protofeathers may have provided vital warmth. Feathered dinosaurs, particularly smaller species of theropods, likely benefited from this thermal insulation, enabling survival through the polar winters. In addition, these ecosystems' productivity and complexity support the idea that food webs were sufficiently robust to sustain large vertebrates year-round, perhaps aided by high nutrient recycling and the adaptive foraging behaviors of herbivores. The Cretaceous polar night would have been a demanding period, pushing dinosaurs to optimize energy storage or dwelling in microhabitats that buffered climatic extremes. Conversely, the arid and semi-arid regions of the Cretaceous posed different challenges, characterized by scarce water, high temperatures, and sparse vegetation. Vast inland basins and desert environments expanded in areas now corresponding to parts of North America, Australia, and Africa. These areas often included dune fields, ephemeral lakes, and oasis-like patches that punctuated inhospitable terrain. Dinosaurs inhabiting arid regions exhibited intriguing adaptations, facilitating water conservation and coping with heat stress. Some herbivores likely adjusted feeding strategies to exploit drought-resistant plants, such as tough cycads, conifers, and hardy angiosperms with deep root systems. Dental and jaw adaptations in hadrosaurids and ceratopsians may reflect abrasive diets adjusted for tough, xerophytic foliage. Behaviorally, dinosaurs may have been nomadic or migratory, moving between scarce water sources or following seasonal vegetation growth. Nesting sites in arid locales suggest reproductive timing synchronized with wetter seasons, enhancing offspring survival. Limb morphology in some theropods hints at efficient locomotion, facilitating long-distance travel over challenging terrain. Physiologically, osteological evidence points to possible thermoregulatory mechanisms. Light-colored osteoderms or skin pigmentation could reflect sunlight, and vascularized bone structures may have aided in dissipating heat. Feathering in smaller dinosaurs might have played roles beyond insulation, such as shielding from solar radiation. Moreover, the presence of freshwater springs, oases, and riparian corridors within arid landscapes created critical habitat refuges, supporting diverse flora and fauna. These habitat islands fostered localized biodiversity hotspots where niche partitioning and specialized ecological interactions occurred. Interactions between polar and arid adaptations underscore evolutionary flexibility, the capacity of dinosaurs to inhabit and thrive across a vast climatic gradient. This ecological versatility was crucial in navigating the environmental upheavals characteristic of the mid to late Cretaceous. In summation, dinosaurs were not simply residents of warm, comfortable regions. They were innovators, evolving behavioral, morphological, and physiological strategies to endure polar darkness and desert heat alike. These adaptations reveal a dynamic picture of life's resilience and underscore the complexity of Cretaceous ecosystems beyond the well-studied lush forests and floodplains. As we prepare to explore deeper into the lives of these ancient creatures, our next step will illuminate the intimate details of their reproductive lives. Eggs, nests, and the challenges of growing up in a world teeming with both opportunity and predator threats. Understanding their reproductive tactics opens a window onto the rhythms of life and survival strategies that shaped the destiny of the dinosaurs and their world. In embarking upon the intimate and fascinating world of dinosaur reproduction during the Cretaceous, we uncover a chapter rich with insights into the origins of life cycles, parental care, and the strategies that ensured the survival of many species in a world filled with both wonder and danger. Eggs, nests, and the developmental phases from hatchlings to adults reveal much about dinosaur biology, ecology, and behavior, casting light on how these ancient creatures raised and nurtured their young amidst the challenges of their environments. Dinosaur reproduction, in many respects, was foundational to their evolutionary success. Although the general strategy was oviparity, laying eggs, there was tremendous variety in nest construction, clutch size, incubation methods, and parental investment across different groups. Fossilized dinosaur eggs and nests provide remarkable evidence, preserved in sediments worldwide, granting rare glimpses into these reproductive tactics. The eggs themselves varied greatly. Typically, dinosaur eggs were hard-shelled, calcareous structures, sometimes ornately textured or patterned, ranging in size depending on species, from small, pigeon-sized eggs to massive ones comparable to modern ostrich eggs. The eggshell microstructure, studied through microscopy, reveals differences in porosity and thickness, adaptations related to incubation environment, and gas exchange. Nesting behaviors were diverse and often sophisticated. Some species dug shallow pits, covering their clutches with vegetation or sediment to protect eggs from predators and environmental stress. Site fidelity is suggested by some nesting grounds, where fossils indicate repeated use over generations, often in dense colonies. Such communal nesting sites, discovered in locations spanning North America, Asia, and South America, evoke images of instinctual nesting migrations and social behaviors reminiscent of modern reptiles and birds. Parental care varied across taxa. While many reptiles today abandon their eggs post-laying, numerous lines of evidence suggest that certain dinosaur groups engaged in active care. Fossilized nests containing eggs alongside adult skeletons imply that some theropods and ornithischians guarded their nests. Brooding postures, remarkably preserved in specimens like oviraptorosaurs, reveal adults covering nests with their bodies, providing protection and possibly helping regulate egg temperature and humidity. Theropods, particularly the maniraptorans, the lineage most closely related to modern birds, displayed reproductive behaviors increasingly akin to avian habits. Presence of feathers, warm incubation based on brooding postures, and nesting in protected environments point to enhanced parental investment. This care likely improved hatchling survival by reducing vulnerability during the critical early growth stages. Growth patterns in hatchlings and juveniles are deciphered from bone histology, revealing rapid early growth phases that slowed as dinosaurs approached adulthood. This accelerated juvenile growth parallels strategies seen in modern birds and mammals, where fast development minimizes time from vulnerability to self-sufficiency. Social structures around reproduction, such as colonial nesting and possible cooperative rearing, offer additional evolutionary advantages. Large herds or flocks could provide safety in numbers, shared vigilance against predators, and efficient use of prime nesting habitats. Fossil trackways adjacent to nesting sites sometimes show multiple age groups traveling together, suggesting family groups or social herds. Egg predation was a consistent ecological pressure. Various carnivores, including small theropods, crocodilians, and predatory insects, likely targeted nests. Defensive behaviors, from choosing concealed or secure nesting locations to aggressive parental guarding, evolved as countermeasures. Structural nest elements like thorny vegetation and mound building reflect strategies to impede predators. In some cases, nesting sites preserved delicate embryos, allowing paleontologists to reconstruct developmental stages and infer incubation periods. These studies provide a window into embryonic growth rates, developmental milestones, and even the timing of hatching relative to seasonal or environmental triggers. Variation in reproductive strategies extends to dinosaur diversity and their ecological contexts, with species in harsher climates or more unpredictable environments possibly exhibiting adaptations such as flexible nesting timing, extended parental care, or dormant egg states to survive adverse conditions. Comparisons with modern reptiles and birds help contextualize dinosaur reproduction, highlighting the evolutionary continuum and innovations that culminated in the rich diversity of reproductive tactics observed today. Cretaceous dinosaur eggs and nesting behaviors bridge the gap from their reptilian ancestors to avian descendants. In sum, the world of dinosaur reproduction was as varied as the dinosaurs themselves. Eggs, nests, and the journey of young dinosaurs from vulnerable hatchlings to formidable adults formed a critical thread weaving through their evolutionary saga, flush with stories of care, survival, and adaptation. Our exploration now guides us toward examining the ongoing interplay between predator and prey, an evolutionary arms race that sculpted anatomical and behavioral innovations, shaping the niche specialization seen throughout the Cretaceous biosphere. In the vast and diverse ecosystems of the Cretaceous period, life was an ongoing interplay of survival, adaptation, and evolutionary innovation. At the heart of this dynamic was the continual interaction between predators and their prey, a complex, reciprocal dance known as a coevolutionary arms race. This process not only shaped the morphology and behavior of countless species, but also drove the intricate web of niche specialization that characterized the Cretaceous biosphere. Coevolutionary arms races occur when evolutionary changes in one species, such as improvements in hunting strategies or defenses, elicit counter-adaptations in others, leading to a cycle of reciprocal, selective pressures. In the Cretaceous, such interactions reached remarkable intensity, with the large theropod predators and the herbivorous dinosaurs exemplifying this evolutionary tug-of-war. Predatory dinosaurs like the Tyrannosaurids, Carcharodontosaurids, and Dromaeosaurids refined their hunting prowess through enhanced sensory capabilities, limb morphology, and powerful jaws. Equipped with keen vision, olfactory senses, and large brain regions associated with processing sensory information, these predators became adept at stalking, ambushing, and overpowering a variety of prey. Their claw and tooth structures evolved for gripping, slashing, or crushing, reflecting diversified hunting techniques. In response, prey species developed an array of defenses to thwart predation. Armored dinosaurs, such as ankylosaurs and nodosaurids, evolved heavy osteoderms and tail clubs that could deter or injure attackers. Ceratopsians possessed formidable horns and shields, useful both for combat and display to intimidate predators. Hadrosaurids and other herbivores adopted vigilance behaviors, herd living as a dilution effect against attacks, and enhanced locomotion for rapid escape. Beyond physical defenses, camouflage and display played vital roles. Some dinosaurs exhibited coloration patterns and integuments, likely serving either to blend into their surroundings or to signal warning or fitness. Feathered theropods may have used plumage for display or thermoregulation, complicating interactions by incorporating social cues into predator-prey dynamics. These evolutionary pressures fostered niche specialization, where species adapted to specific ecological roles, reducing direct competition and allowing coexistence. Predators diversified into ambush hunters, pursuit predators, scavengers, or generalists, each exploiting different prey types, habitats, and behaviors. Similarly, herbivores partitioned dietary niches by differing in feeding height, plant preference, or foraging strategy. For example, sauropods fed on high canopies unreachable by others, hadrosaurids grazed on low-lying vegetation, and ceratopsians browsed mid-level plants. This stratification minimized resource overlap, enhancing ecosystem complexity. Predators specialized accordingly. Long-legged theropods chased fleet-footed prey on open plains, while others hunted in forested environments using camouflage and stealth. The fossil record evidences these interactions through bite marks, healed injuries, and pathological bones revealing attempted attacks and escapes. Nesting sites guarded by adults hint at parental protection evolved in response to predation pressures on vulnerable young. Trackways showing predator-prey encounters or herd movements provide further behavioral insights. Coevolution extended beyond direct combat to reproductive strategies, with species evolving breeding timing, nest structures, and juvenile behaviors that minimized vulnerability. This arms race also impacted ecosystem engineering. Activities such as foraging and movement by herbivores influenced vegetation structure, which affected predator strategies and broader environmental conditions. Throughout the Cretaceous, coevolution fostered the incredible tapestry of life, where each adaptation propelled another, pushing evolutionary limits and catalyzing biodiversity. The predator-prey dynamic is ultimately a story of balance. One system's survival strategy drives another's innovation, creating the remarkable complexity that defines Earth's biological heritage. Our exploration now advances toward the nuanced interactions among dinosaur species, how symbiosis and competition further shaped their evolutionary journeys and ecological frameworks, enriching the story of the Cretaceous world. Continuing our exploration of the Cretaceous period's rich tapestry of life, we now focus on the intricate ecological interactions among dinosaur species themselves. Specifically, the dynamics of symbiosis and competition that shaped their coexistence and evolutionary trajectories. In the complex ecosystems of the age, these interspecies relationships were fundamental drivers of biodiversity, adaptation, and ecosystem functionality. Symbiosis, broadly defined as close and persistent interactions between different species, could take many forms among dinosaurs, ranging from mutualism, where both parties benefit, to commensalism and parasitism. While direct evidence of ancient symbiotic relationships can be scarce, emerging fossil findings, comparative anatomy, and modern ecological analogues offer tantalizing glimpses into these ancient partnerships. One potential mutualistic interaction involved herbivorous dinosaurs and gut microbiota. Although microscopic and non-fossilized, symbiotic bacteria within the digestive tracts of herbivorous dinosaurs likely played essential roles in breaking down tough plant fibers like cellulose, aiding nutrient absorption and supporting large body sizes. This internal symbiosis echoes relationships seen in modern herbivores and would have been vital in enabling dinosaurs to exploit diverse and fibrous plant resources. Additionally, some dinosaurs may have engaged in external mutualisms, although interpretations remain speculative. For instance, it is plausible that small dinosaurs or other animals removed ectoparasites from larger dinosaur hosts, akin to modern, cleaner species. Such interactions would enhance health for the hosts, while providing a food source for the cleaners. Competition, on the other hand, was a prominent force sculpting dinosaur assemblages. Species competing for similar resources, whether food, territory, or mates, often faced selective pressures leading to niche differentiation. This process, called resource partitioning, allowed multiple species to coexist by minimizing direct competition through specialization. Herbivorous dinosaurs exemplified this process. Different groups evolved varying feeding strategies. Sauropods grazed high in the canopy, ceratopsians browsed mid-level vegetation, hadrosaurids exploited low vegetation, and ankylosaurs fed on ground-level plants. These feeding height stratifications reduced dietary overlap and allowed large herbivore populations to thrive simultaneously. Among predators, competition influenced hunting strategies, prey selection, and temporal activity patterns. Large theropods occupied apex niches, but often specialized regionally or ecologically. Tyrannosaurids dominated certain continents, while carcharodontosaurids reigned in others. Smaller theropods likely hunted different prey sizes or employed distinct modes, from pack hunting to ambush tactics. Territorial behavior also arose from interspecific competition. Certain dinosaur species established and defended territories for feeding or breeding, often signaled through visual displays like crest ornamentation, elaborate frills, or tail plumage, adding complexity to community interactions. Evidence for direct interactions among dinosaur species includes bite marks on bones attributable to conspecific rivalries or interspecific confrontations, as well as fossil assemblages indicative of predator-prey events or nesting site competition. Injuries showing healing suggest that confrontations were frequent but survivable, highlighting a dynamic and often aggressive ecological landscape. Coexistence strategies also involved temporal niche partitioning, whereby species active at different times of day or seasons reduced overlap. Though direct evidence is limited, such behavior is inferred from anatomical and physiological studies, such as eye morphology indicating nocturnal or diurnal habits. Moreover, the presence of dinosaurs sharing habitats with other vertebrates and invertebrates introduced further layers of ecological interaction, including competition for nesting sites, food resources, and shelter. These multifaceted relationships knit together the fabric of Cretaceous ecosystems. In summary, symbiosis and competition among dinosaurs fostered a complex network of interactions that drove ecological balance and evolutionary innovation. Through cooperation and rivalry, species adapted, diversified, and partitioned the environment in ways that enrich our understanding of these magnificent creatures' lives. Our forthcoming discussion will examine the profound environmental disruptions, volcanic activities, wildfires, and other catastrophes that periodically reshaped these ecosystems, challenging the resilience of dinosaur communities and influencing evolutionary paths. In the rich and dynamic ecosystems of the Cretaceous period, where towering dinosaurs roamed lush forests and vast plains, the forces of nature also periodically unleashed events of great upheaval, disasters and disturbances that tested the resilience of life and shaped the course of evolutionary history. Volcanic eruptions, wildfires, and other localized catastrophes punctuated the natural rhythms, creating challenges and opportunities that left indelible marks on the landscapes and the organisms inhabiting them. Volcanism was a particularly influential geological force during the Cretaceous. The period saw some of the most extensive volcanic activity in Earth's history, including massive flood basalt events such as the Ontong Java Plateau in the Pacific and the Deccan Traps in India. These enormous eruptions released vast quantities of lava covering millions of square kilometers, dramatically altering landforms and affecting global climates through the emission of gases like carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide. Volcanic eruptions could have both immediate and long-term ecological impacts. Locally, lava flows destroyed habitats outright, obliterating plant and animal communities, while ashfall blankets smothered vegetation and contaminated water sources. The release of volcanic gases influenced the atmosphere, contributing to episodes of warming or cooling depending on the balance of greenhouse and reflective particles. These climate fluctuations affected vegetation patterns, marine productivity, and animal distributions across continents. Wildfires, closely linked to both climate conditions and volcanic activity, were common disturbances shaping the terrestrial Cretaceous environment. The dry seasons of various regions, fueled by abundant plant biomass and fluctuating moisture, allowed for the ignition and spread of large fires. Evidence from fossil charcoal, formed when vegetation burns, indicates frequent and sometimes extensive wildfire events across many Cretaceous habitats. Such fires played a dual role. While they destroyed existing vegetation and imperiled resident fauna, wildfires also created mosaic landscapes of burned and recovering areas, promoting ecological succession and habitat heterogeneity. Some plant species evolved fire-adaptive traits, such as thick bark or fire-resistant seeds, while certain animal species may have taken advantage of newly opened territories or increased nutrient availability following fires. Other localized catastrophes included flooding, droughts, earthquakes, and storms, each exerting episodic pressures on ecosystems. Flood events could devastate lowland habitats, wash away nests, and interrupt food chains, while droughts imposed water scarcity, stressing both flora and fauna. These disturbances forced species to develop behavioral and physiological adaptations, such as migration, burrowing, or water conservation. Fossil records capture footprints and bone beds formed during such catastrophic events, offering snapshots of ecological crises and their aftermath. Mass mortality layers showcase communities overwhelmed by sudden calamities, while subsequent fossil assemblages reveal patterns of recovery and re-evolution. Importantly, these natural disasters were not merely destructive, but served as catalysts for evolutionary change and diversification. By periodically resetting ecosystems, catastrophes opened niches, reduced competition, and generated selective pressures favoring adaptable and resilient species. Such disturbances contributed to the dynamic mosaic of Cretaceous biodiversity. The patchwork of habitats molded by volcanic layers, fire-swept forests, and floodplain deposits ensures that the story of life in the Cretaceous is one of resilience amid upheaval. These natural episodes remind us that Earth's history is as much shaped by forces of destruction as by those of creation. As we move forward in our exploration, the following chapter will reveal how such disturbances intricately connected with processes of habitat fragmentation and island formation, turning the tides of dinosaur distribution and evolution during this fascinating era. As the vast seas continued their inexorable spread during the Cretaceous, Earth's continents became increasingly fragmented into isolated land masses and archipelagos, leading to unique ecological dynamics driven by habitat fragmentation and the formation of island ecosystems. These geographic changes profoundly influenced the evolutionary pathways of dinosaurs and other organisms, generating centers of endemism, biotic turnover, and novel adaptive radiations. Habitat fragmentation during the Cretaceous was largely facilitated by high sea levels that flooded continental interiors, creating isolated islands of varying sizes and proximities. This geological reshaping imposed significant effects on habitats and biogeography. Previously connected populations found themselves separated by aquatic barriers, which restricted gene flow and led to speciation through geographic isolation, a process known as allopatric speciation. Island ecosystems presented both challenges and opportunities for resident species. The isolation could reduce predation pressures or competition, allowing some lineages to flourish and evolve unusual traits. Conversely, limited resources and space imposed constraints that often led to morphological and behavioral adaptations distinct from mainland relatives. A fascinating phenomenon observed in island ecosystems is insular dwarfism, where large dinosaurs reduced in size to adapt to limited resources. Such patterns are documented in various Cretaceous island faunas. For example, some European islands hosted dwarf sauropods and hadrosaurids far smaller than their continental counterparts. This size reduction appears to be a common evolutionary response to island life, balancing metabolic demands with resource availability. Conversely, insular gigantism, where small species evolve larger sizes, also occurred in some island settings. Certain small ornithopods and theropods became relatively larger in isolated habitats, possibly due to reduced predation or niche expansion. Island environments also fostered unique ecological interactions. Limited species diversity could lead to relaxed competition, allowing resident species to exploit broader or shifted niches. At the same time, ecological specialization sometimes intensified, creating new adaptive pressures. The development of specialized feeding strategies, locomotion modes, or reproductive behaviors is evident in fossil assemblages from island contexts. The fragmentation encouraged by rising seas affected not only land animals, but also flora. Plant communities on islands evolved distinctive compositions shaped by dispersal limitations and novel environmental conditions. These floral changes in turn influenced herbivorous dinosaurs, creating feedback loops in ecosystem structure. Paleontological findings from Europe's late Cretaceous island archipelagos, such as Hatzeg Island in present-day Romania, have yielded remarkable fossil assemblages illustrating these dynamics. Here, diverse groups exhibit dwarfism and unique morphologies, providing critical evidence for the impact of island ecosystems on dinosaur evolution. Moreover, island biotas were often highly sensitive to environmental changes. Limited ranges and small population sizes increased vulnerability to extinction, triggered by climatic fluctuations, habitat alteration, or invasive species. Consequently, these isolated ecosystems contributed to localized extinctions and biotic turnovers that shaped the broader patterns of Cretaceous biodiversity. Understanding these island ecosystems not only highlights the evolutionary creativity and constraints faced by Cretaceous organisms, but also sheds light on modern conservation biology, as many principles concerning habitat fragmentation and species vulnerability persist through time. As our narrative advances, the effects of these environmental reshaping events become clearer, leading us to explore the profound mid-Cretaceous turnover, a period of extinctions and the emergence of new dinosaur groups. This transition underscores the interplay between Earth's changing geography, climate, and life's inexorable march toward modern biodiversity. The mid-Cretaceous period, roughly spanning from about 100 to 90 million years ago, represents a watershed moment in the history of dinosaur evolution, a time marked by significant extinctions and the emergence of new and diverse dinosaur groups. This epoch of transition reshaped terrestrial ecosystems around the globe, setting the stage for the later Cretaceous proliferation of some of the most iconic dinosaurs and influencing the evolutionary legacies that would endure beyond the Mesozoic. The term turnover in paleontology refers to a substantial change in the composition of faunal communities, often involving the extinction of widespread or dominant groups alongside the rise of previously minor or newly evolved taxa. The mid-Cretaceous turnover was characterized by such shifts, attributed in part to changes in climate, sea levels, vegetation, and habitat distributions, as well as intrinsic biological factors. During the early Cretaceous, many dinosaur lineages that flourished in the Jurassic remained prevalent, including the massive diplotacid sauropods and primitive theropod groups. However, by the mid-Cretaceous, fossils indicate a decline and, in some cases, the disappearance of several Jurassic holdovers, especially among sauropods. Diplotacids, for instance, seem to have vanished, while titanosaurs rose to prominence, showcasing more specialized anatomies and ecological roles adapted to the changing environments. In the theropod realm, the turnover saw the decline of some earlier groups and the rise of advanced coelurosaurians, particularly maniraptorans, which diversified rapidly, expanding into varied niches. This diversification included the spread of groups like dromaeosaurids and troodontids, which exhibited new hunting strategies and morphological innovations. Among herbivorous dinosaurs, hadrosaurids, the duck-billed dinosaurs, experienced remarkable radiation, becoming some of the most widespread and ecologically influential herbivores by mid to late Cretaceous. Their sophisticated chewing apparatus and versatility allowed them to exploit diverse vegetation, including the burgeoning angiosperms, reflecting coevolutionary interactions between flora and fauna. Ceratopsians also began their ascent during this turnover, evolving from small, bipedal to large quadrupedal forms with elaborate horns and frills. Their increasing diversity paralleled the rise of flowering plants, suggesting adaptive responses to new food sources and environmental conditions. Climate changes and fluctuating sea levels during this time played crucial roles in driving the turnover. The mid-Cretaceous was a period of environmental upheaval, including warming trends, oceanic anoxic events, and the continued breakup of continents into island complexes and narrow seaways. These conditions fragmented habitats, altered ecosystems, and created isolated evolutionary laboratories, facilitating speciation but also imposing extinction pressures. The geological record reveals evidence of these biological transitions in rich fossil assemblages from locales such as North America's western interior and Asia's extensive basins. These sites document both the disappearance of ancestral forms and the emergence of novel lineages, bridging ecological and chronological gaps. While the mid-Cretaceous turnover involved widespread changes, it was not a single catastrophic event, but rather a protracted process of biotic reorganization occurring over millions of years. This gradual transition allowed for dynamic evolutionary experimentation, driving the shaping of ecosystems that became increasingly modern in composition and structure. The consequences of this turnover extended beyond dinosaurs, affecting contemporaneous plants, invertebrates, and vertebrates, reflecting ecosystem-wide restructuring. It exemplifies how climatic and environmental forces interplay with biological systems, forging pathways toward new biodiversity patterns. As we advance from this pivotal moment, we approach the final chapters of the Cretaceous, times of escalating ecological shifts leading up to the dramatic end Cretaceous extinction. In the next section, we will explore how changing ecosystems and faunal dynamics set the stage for the final days of the non-avian dinosaurs, closing an era of remarkable evolutionary history. As the Cretaceous period neared its close, the ancient world witnessed profound transformations in its ecosystems, changes that foreshadowed the dramatic events of the end Cretaceous mass extinction. The final days of this era were marked by shifting climates, evolving flora and fauna, and increasingly fragmented habitats. all of which reshaped biological communities and set the stage for one of Earth's most significant biological turnovers. During the late Cretaceous, global climates exhibited a gradual cooling trend punctuated by fluctuations in temperature and precipitation patterns. Though still warmer than today's average conditions, polar regions experienced more pronounced seasonality, while equatorial areas saw shifting rainfall regimes that transformed vegetation distributions. These climatic shifts manifested in the expansion and contraction of various biomes, including forests, floodplains, and coastal wetlands, leading to alterations in habitat availability and quality. The dominance of flowering plants continued to expand, altering the structure and composition of ecosystems. Angiosperms diversified across continents, forming new forest compositions, grasslands, and shrublands. These vegetational changes impacted herbivorous dinosaurs, which adapted to new food sources or faced pressures from evolving plant defenses. In parallel, insect populations also diversified alongside these botanical shifts, adding complexity to the ecological networks. Faunal turnover accelerated as well. Emerging dinosaur groups diversified, while some older lineages declined or vanished regionally. This dynamic interplay between extinction and origination reshaped community structures in various regions, influencing predator-prey dynamics, species interactions, and ecosystem function. Habitat fragmentation intensified due to fluctuating sea levels associated with climatic changes and tectonic activity. The inundation and recession of epicontinental seas created island archipelagos and isolated habitats, fostering endemism but also vulnerability. Populations became more localized and separated, reducing genetic flow and increasing their susceptibility to environmental stressors. Marine ecosystems underwent parallel transformations, with turnovers among mollusks, sharks, and marine reptiles reflecting shifting conditions in temperature, oxygen levels, and habitat structures. These changes prefigured disruptions in oceanic food webs that would accompany the subsequent mass extinction event. Amid these systemic changes, evidence from the fossil record reveals increasing stress on organisms. Declining diversity, reduced body sizes, and altered behaviors in some taxa suggest ecological pressures and environmental uncertainties. Paleontologists observe faunal waves of extinction and radiation, underscoring a world in flux. Volcanic activity, such as the extensive eruptions forming the Deccan Traps in India, added further environmental strain. These prolonged, massive eruptions released greenhouse gases and particulates into the atmosphere, potentially contributing to climate variability and stressing ecosystems worldwide. The intricate pre-extinction ecological shifts in the late Cretaceous highlight a world balanced on the edge, simultaneously resilient and fragile. These changing ecosystems reflect the complex interplay of gradual environmental forces and biological responses, leading up to the abrupt and catastrophic end Cretaceous event. As we draw near to this pivotal moment in Earth's history, our next chapter will examine the impact event itself, the asteroid collision, volcanism, and ensuing mass extinction mechanism that abruptly and dramatically reshaped life on Earth, extinguishing many groups while allowing others to survive and pave the way for new evolutionary directions. As the Cretaceous period unfolded into its final chapter, the stage was set for one of the most profound and abrupt changes in Earth's biological history, the mass extinction event that closed the Mesozoic Era and forever altered the trajectory of life on our planet. This cataclysmic event, marking the boundary between the Cretaceous and Paleogene periods approximately 66 million years ago, was instigated by a combination of catastrophic forces, prominently featuring a monumental asteroid impact and intensified volcanism. Together, these phenomena reshaped the global environment and triggered widespread extinction across terrestrial and marine realms. Central to this devastation was the infamous asteroid impact, widely accepted as the principal driver of the mass extinction. Geological evidence pinpoints the impact at the Chicxulub crater on the Yucatan Peninsula in modern-day Mexico. A massive collision creating a crater roughly 150 kilometers, 93 miles in diameter. This impact released an unimaginably vast amount of energy, equivalent to billions of atomic bombs, generating intense shockwaves, wildfires, tsunamis, and the injection of enormous quantities of dust and aerosols into the atmosphere. The immediate aftermath of the impact was catastrophic on a local and regional scale. The surrounding environment experienced extreme heat from re-entering ejecta, igniting widespread wildfires and obliterating habitats. The blast and subsequent pyroclastic flows devastated enormous areas, annihilating flora and fauna alike. Tsunamis propagated across oceans, wreaking havoc on coastal ecosystems. However, it was the global environmental repercussions that sealed the fate of much life on Earth. The fine particles propelled into the stratosphere led to a prolonged impact winter, where sunlight was drastically reduced for months or years. This suppression of sunlight curtailed photosynthesis, disrupting primary productivity and collapsing food webs. The climate cooled sharply, even briefly reversing the long-standing greenhouse warmth of the late Cretaceous. In parallel, the impact unleashed massive quantities of greenhouse gases, especially carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide, through vaporization of carbonate rocks and ensuing wildfires. Long-term effects included acid rain, ocean acidification, and complex climatic oscillations, pressure points that stressed surviving species across ecosystems. Contributing to these environmental upheavals was a phase of intense volcanism contemporaneous with or preceding the impact, the Deccan Traps in present-day India. The Deccan volcanic province is characterized by flood basalt eruptions, ejecting vast volumes of lava over large swaths of land, accompanied by gas emissions affecting atmospheric and oceanic chemistry. Volcanic activity likely exacerbated environmental instability, inducing periodic cooling followed by warming and fluctuations in oxygen levels. The prolonged and episodic nature of volcanism may have weakened ecosystems prior to the impact, reducing the resilience of species and heightening extinction vulnerability. Together, the asteroid impact and volcanism created a perfect storm of ecological disruption, combining rapid, acute destruction with sustained environmental stressors. This synergy explains the widespread obliteration of non-avian dinosaurs, large marine reptiles, ammonites, and many other taxa. In contrast, some smaller and more adaptable lineages, including certain birds, mammals, and plants, survived and later radiated in the recovery epochs. Fossil records across the KPG boundary demonstrate dramatic turnover, a sharp decline in dinosaur remains, shifts in plant pollen and spores, and changes in marine microfossils. These biological signals corroborate the timing and magnitude of extinction. Importantly, the event was global in scale, affecting all major ecosystems with varying intensity. Scientific investigations continue to refine our understanding of the extinction mechanism's complexity. Multidisciplinary studies employ geochemistry, paleontology, stratigraphy, and climate modeling to reconstruct the sequence and interplay of factors involved. The Chicxulub impact stands as a stark reminder of the fragility and interconnectedness of Earth's biosphere in the face of cosmic and terrestrial forces. As the dust settled on this extinction event, the biological landscape was irrevocably altered. The subsequent aftermath opened ecological voids and niches, catalyzing the rise of birds, mammals, and flowering plants in the Paleogene. This pivotal moment embraced both an end and a beginning. Our next chapter will explore this aftermath and survival, how life rebounded and diversified following the cataclysm, tracing the evolutionary journey toward the modern age, rooted deeply in the legacies of the Cretaceous survivors. In the wake of one of Earth's most profound mass extinction events, the end Cretaceous era ushered in a dramatic reshaping of life's narrative. A story marked by loss, but also by remarkable resilience and renewal. As countless species vanished, leaving ecological voids, a new cast of survivors emerged, setting the stage for the rise of birds and mammals whose evolutionary paths would ultimately shape the modern world. The aftermath of the impact event and the associated volcanic cataclysms created a harsh environment. With skies darkened by dust and aerosols, photosynthesis was severely curtailed, disrupting food chains both on land and in the seas. This abrupt change decimated many organisms, especially large-bodied non-avian dinosaurs, marine reptiles like mosasaurs and plesiosaurs, and many invertebrates including ammonites. Yet, amidst this turmoil, some lineages managed to endure and adapt. Birds, the direct descendants of maniraptoran theropods, were among the dinosaurian survivors. Their smaller body sizes, likely versatile diets, and potential for flight conferred critical advantages in the post-impact environment. Flight allowed birds to exploit new ecological niches, avoid local hazards, and rapidly relocate, while their metabolic rates and reproductive strategies may have supported resilience under fluctuating conditions. Early Cenozoic birds, appearing shortly after the extinction, radiated into a diversity that mirrored or surpassed prior terrestrial faunas. Their radiation introduced novel forms: perching birds adapted to arboreal habitats, ground dwellers specializing in various diets, and aquatic birds reclaiming marine niches. This avian diversification served as a cornerstone for reconstructing terrestrial ecosystems and establishing new food webs. Mammals, emerging from small, often nocturnal ancestors of the Mesozoic, took advantage of similar opportunities. Previously constrained by dinosaur dominance, these resilient creatures began expanding in size, diversity, and ecological role. Early mammals diversified into herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, and specialized niches like burrowers and tree climbers. This adaptive radiation, often called the mammalian explosion, reshaped terrestrial ecosystems over millions of years. Anatomically and behaviorally, mammals evolved enhanced sensory capacities, more complex brains, and refined reproductive strategies, which facilitated survival in the dynamic post-extinction landscapes. Such advancements laid the groundwork for the eventual rise of larger mammals and primates, key players in subsequent evolutionary chapters. The continued presence of certain reptiles, amphibians, fish, and invertebrates also contributed to ecosystem complexity, providing prey and interactions necessary for stabilizing food webs. Concurrently, flowering plants further diversified, offering new resources that fueled herbivore expansion and coevolution. These survivor lineages demonstrate that mass extinction events, while catastrophic, also function as evolutionary resets, opening ecological space for innovation and diversification. The decline of non-avian dinosaurs removed dominant competitors and niche holders, allowing birds and mammals to ascend and occupy niches previously inaccessible. Understanding this aftermath enriches our perspective on resilience, adaptation, and the tempo of evolutionary change. The paleontological record here serves as a testament to life's persistence and creativity in the face of adversity. Our concluding focus will explore the enduring legacies of these Cretaceous survivors, how their evolutionary journeys echo into the present day, linking Earth's deep past with the vibrant biodiversity we inherit and strive to conserve. As we conclude our extensive exploration of the Cretaceous period, it is both humbling and inspiring to reflect on the enduring legacies of those remarkable survivors whose lineages have persisted into the modern world. Though the non-avian dinosaurs met their end at the close of the Mesozoic era, Life's story is not one of mere extinction, but of transformation, resilience, and continuity that links the deep past with present-day biodiversity. Foremost among these legacies are the birds, the direct descendants of maniraptoran theropods, which represent the living dinosaurs of today. Through the ravages of the end Cretaceous extinction, a select group of avian dinosaurs survived and subsequently radiated into an astonishing array of forms and ecological niches. Today, with over 10,000 species adapted to terrestrial, freshwater, and marine habitats, birds embody the evolutionary triumph of flight, behavioral complexity, and ecological versatility. Their feathers, respiratory systems, and reproductive strategies bear the genetic echoes of their Cretaceous ancestors, while their global distribution continues to shape ecosystems worldwide. Mammals, too, share profound evolutionary roots with Cretaceous survivors. Though often overshadowed by their dinosaur contemporaries, early mammals endured the cataclysmic events that ended the age of dinosaurs and subsequently flourished and diversified, giving rise to the vast variety of species we see today, including us. Their evolutionary innovations in sensory abilities, metabolic regulation, and reproductive strategies underpinned their success and adaptability across habitats. Beyond vertebrates, many plant lineages that rose during the Cretaceous, especially flowering plants, continued to diversify and dominate ecosystems, profoundly influencing food webs and habitat structures. These botanical survivors provided the essential foundation upon which modern terrestrial life is built. The impacts of the Cretaceous survivors resonate not just in biology, but in geology and environmental science, offering insights into resilience in the face of mass extinction and environmental upheaval. Fossil records, molecular studies, and climatic reconstructions help illuminate pathways of survival and adaptation, informing conservation efforts and our understanding of biodiversity dynamics under current global change. Ultimately, the legacies of the Cretaceous survivors remind us that life on Earth is a continuum, shaped by countless cycles of destruction and renewal. They testify to the power of evolutionary innovation and ecological flexibility, inspiring ongoing exploration of nature's intricate history. Our journey through the Cretaceous may reach its end here, but the echoes of its life, the birds overhead, mammals in the forest, and flowering plants beneath our feet, continue vibrantly, connecting us to a deep and fascinating chapter of Earth's natural heritage.